Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's session of GradChat. My name is Tavita Lasuma. I'm just going to sort of let the students pop into the room now. We've got a lot of students still getting in, so we're not going to start just yet. We will in a second, but we definitely have a special guest here who's actually streaming from Sydney, which doesn't seem so special anymore because of the virtual environment that we're in. But thanks so much, Rogan. I'll get to Rogan in a section, but tonight we're going to be talking about GradConnection and the that platform that can help you get that first grad job, and also what the process is for graduate recruitment. So we're going to be talking to Rogan tonight about that, and also sort of just to let you know, Tuesday nights 6 till 7 are dedicated to employability and transitioning to work as part of GSA's initiatives. But before we kick off, I'd like to acknowledge the land of the occult Willan clan, or the Boonwurrung, where I'm actually currently hosting from at the moment, St Kilda. And so I pay my respects to the elders, past and present, and recognise the strength, resilience, and capacity of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in this land. So as I mentioned before, tonight we're really grateful to have Rogan Sturrock, Sturrock in with us, who's the National Account Manager for GradConnection, who works with clients to maximise their exposure to potential graduates and interns via digital marketing channels. So GradConnection is Australia's largest graduate job search website, and working with over 350 of Australia's largest employers, who also recruit across a variety of industries. So Rogan, welcome, and thank you so much for being on this evening chat with us. And I with some of the people that were in the room might recognize you from a brief presentation you did last week for us in introducing what GradConnection is. And so we are going to introduce GradConnection, but then focus nicely on how the process works for getting that graduate role. So and then go through some tips and tricks from your behalf. So look, welcome, Rogan. Great to have you here.
Awesome, thanks, Tavita. As you said, basically we're just going to run through. If you tuned in last time, then you'll probably see some of it looking familiar. Basically, just run through how the website works, and then we'll run through the typical sort of recruitment process for the grad programs, as well as sort of some tips and tricks on how to best handle that and put your best foot forward. So as Tavita said, my name is Rogan Sturrock. I'm one of the account managers at GradConnection. So basically my role is to look after employers who use our website to hire and attract graduates. So I work with a lot of different employers across a lot of different industries, all different sizes as well. So I've been working at GradConnection for about 3 years now. Over that time, it's sort of grown considerably, and now we're sort of Australia's largest platform, a student-specific job platform.
Rogan, just before we kick off, I might just remind people in the room that if you have questions, we've got a dedicated time at the end of Rogan's presentation where we're going to be doing a bit of a Q&A session. We do have the Q&A function active now, so you can start putting questions in there, but we won't get to them until after the presentation. So the presentation is about 20, 30 minutes, and we just want to give enough time to get all those questions in. And what we're going to do, just to help facilitate the plenty of questions that we normally get during these types of sessions, is if you see a question that comes up on the Q&A, just like it. And so what it does is the most liked questions basically go to the top of the list, and that means that it was a question you were going to ask, or very similar question. So I guess it helps us get through everyone's questions, hopefully tonight. And if not, we will definitely address them back out to you guys through email after the session with Rogan's help. So just put it out there. Thanks, Rogan.
Awesome. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I mean, just if there's anything that pops up sort of midway through, just shoot it in, and then hopefully we can sort of cover it off at the end for you all. Cool. So just a bit about the website. So basically, it was started sort of 10 years ago. The directors were actually grads themselves at the time. So they were working at Westpac, and they were given the task of looking at the recruitment process to see whether there was anything to improve upon. And basically, at the time, there was no student-specific job board, so they went away and built it. It's grown sort of into the beast it is today. So just a bit about what kind of roles are available on the site. So there's a lot of the big employers you'll be kind of familiar with the structured grad program. So They're basically sort of designed to find future leaders of companies. So that what they do is typically is put you through a 1 to 2 year program. Often they'll have sort of 6-month rotations where they'll put you through different parts of the business. So you get full exposure to the business and then sort of put you into a role at the end of that. Then there's also graduate jobs on there that aren't necessarily structured programs. So these will be roles that still require a degree. And then basically you'll go straight into a full-time role in a full-time position. Entry-level roles, so these are roles which are basically require little to no experience, where you can get your sort of foot in the door and then sort of work your way up through and get your experience and then possibly leverage it out from there. And then the other type that we've got on there is internships. So essentially it's just practical work experience with an employer while you're studying. So normally it will be for sort of people in their penultimate year. It can be paid, unpaid, or project-based. Now these are becoming far more popular with employers, because what we're seeing is employers will use the cohort from their internships to roll through into their grad programs. So we're seeing increased numbers of internships going up for opportunity-wise, and then they're starting to reduce numbers on the graduate intake because they're able to roll these people through. So if you haven't looked at internships as a possibility and have been focusing on grad programs and grad roles, have a look, because obviously it gets you a foot up, but obviously it also gives you exposure to the jobs and roles prior to actually committing to full-time work. Yeah. Cool. So in terms of how the site works, we'll quickly run through this so that you guys can use it after this. And then we'll be jumping into the recruitment process and then sort of how to nail that. But basically we have a couple of key differences on the website. So in terms of functionality. So the first is the search function. So we differ a bit to Seek and Indeed, where you'll use a keyword search. We have these drop-down menus where basically you can select the types of job you're looking for. So let's say on the left-hand side, you'd select like internship or grad program in the left one. So the types of job we just discussed, and then you just pop in whatever degree type you're doing. So in this example, electrical engineering, and then click search. Basically what's going to happen is it's going to return a whole list of employers who are able to, that have roles available for electrical engineers. So the reason it's designed like this is that rather than searching for job titles, that you can put in your degree, and then you're going to see a whole list of employers who you can apply for, many of which we hope will be people that weren't necessarily front of mind. So, I mean, when I was at university, I did business and commerce, and when I left, I sort of associated that with like business and banking. So ended up working at Westpac. But the reality is that every company has a business and commerce related role available. So the idea is that when you put that in, you're going to see a whole list of different employers that you can apply with. So rather than returning job roles, it's going to return employer profiles. So you can click on the employer and find a bit of information out about them. So you'll see on this one that it has the available opportunities here. So Seek obviously doesn't have any advertised at the moment, but that kind of works as the job board part of it. But you're also going to be able to find out a bit about the company. So you'll see about us, like an about Seek page, or about the graduate program, where it will give you a bit of a breakdown of what's involved. And then there will often be like interviews with current grads or previous grads, sort of sharing their experiences as well. So particularly if it's a business you're not familiar with, it lets you sort of broaden your horizons on what's available out there for you. Cool, so some key application periods. So traditionally at the start of the year, sort of between February to March, is when the main sort of wave of employers would go out for the grad market. So often they'll advertise quite far in advance for when they start. So say, for example, for this year, a lot of them will advertise in February and March this year, and then spend the year going through the recruitment process that we're about to look at for a 2021 start at the very start of next year. So quite far in advance. And then in that second part of the year where we're at now, with August, September, we'll see a second wave of grad programs come through, where again, they'll be advertising now for a start of 2021. So obviously it's a shorter lead time. So in terms of sort of the process we're about to look at is a bit more fast tracked and less spread out than if you were to apply earlier in the year. And then also at this time of the year is when a lot of the internships and vacation programs for over the summer holidays are advertised. So great time to get on and take a look and see what's available to you, and then hopefully be able to apply for some stuff. Cool. So basically what we're going to look at mainly today is the recruitment process for grad programs. On the left, you'll see sort of cover letter. So these are sort of main elements that you'll see across the different hiring processes. So employers won't necessarily use all of these or in this order, but hopefully, you'll be able to sort of pull out elements and then apply what we chat through today to whatever application process you go through. Cool. All right. So I mean, the first two elements are going to be the cover letter and CV when you're applying for something. So, I mean, there are places like PwC that aren't actually requiring you to do a CV anymore, which is quite cool. But for the most part, it is still required. So these are basically the two written elements. So we use the analogy to look at your cover letter as like a trailer to the movie. So to try and sort of hit them with all the information that's really concise and compelling to draw them in, to have a look at the CV, and the CV will tell the whole story of who you are and your experience. So we'll come back to this in a bit more detail, but the idea is to try to keep it sort of short and concise, pull them in, and then the CV will be all of the detail. After you've completed that, you often have to put in an online application through the ATS. So it'll basically be a system where you'll enter in all of the information, about yourself. So a lot of it will be already in your CV, but you'll just be needing to put it into the system, because what it will do is screen you to make sure that you hit all the right criteria. So make sure that you're putting in all the experience, who you are, all your details and stuff like that, extracurricular activities, work rights and stuff. So take your time and make sure you fill it out correctly, and then hopefully get through the next round. Cool. So grad phone interviews. Just a moment. We'll have a look at here. Yeah, cool. So basically with the phone interviews, this is going to be a step where they've gone through, they've got your application, they've got your CV, they're taking a look at it, and they basically just want to give you a call to sort of verify everything and clear it up, and sort of just go through and make sure everything's all correct. So the idea here isn't necessarily to sort of try and catch you off guard with anything or try and sort of get heaps of detail. It's just to make sure that, everything that on paper is matching up, and to just sort of see that you understand what the role is. And then you can kind of ask any questions you're not sure about. And if it's a good fit, then you can kind of move into the next phases. Cool. So the psychometric testing is pretty common across most employers now. So often it will be online, where it'll sort of assess different personality traits and cognitive ability and things like that. Basically, the aim here is to sort of see whether you're the right fit. Sort of, it can be like culturally as well. So for this part, it's not like, don't try and game it. Like, don't try and put in what you think that they want to hear. It's important to answer it how you deal with situations truthfully, because then when you get in the work and then you kind of can figure out whether it's a good match or not, and the business can figure out where you would suit them. And then you want to make sure that you actually are a good fit. Otherwise, you're going to get in there and it's not going to work anyway. So make sure you do that truthfully, and don't try and sort of work it to what you think they want to hear, because hopefully you'll be what they want to hear anyway. And then, so we've got practice tests on the website. So we've got a jobs guide that I'll show you a bit later on, but you can jump on GradConnection and have a look at the practice tests on there, just to sort of see what kind of questions they ask and what you'd be in for. And then I think once you sort of know what to expect, it's not as daunting. Now, video interviews, the video interviews that we're talking about here are slightly different. COVID's obviously changed things a bit in terms of the way of how we interview across Zoom and stuff now. But traditionally, prior to COVID, The video interview phase was basically where you'd be given a set of questions to answer, and you'd have to take a short video recording yourself answering those questions. So it's not like Tavita and I now, we were sort of having a chat back and forth. It's you sitting down, recording a video, and then running through some questions, and you get one take to sort of hit them all in. So we get a lot of feedback that it's kind of a bit of the weird, like it's a bit weird. People don't necessarily feel that comfortable doing it. So what we sort of suggest is jumping in front of the camera and just giving a few sort of test runs and sort of see how you feel, and see often when you sort of get in front of the camera, the way that you're presenting yourself might be different to how you thought you were. So you can kind of see what your mannerisms are, like if you're using your hands and stuff. So yeah, but again, it is a bit of a tricky one just because people aren't necessarily used to it, but hopefully after sort of getting in front of the camera, you'll feel a bit more comfortable and give it a shot. Cool. So then the sort of the biggest parts of the recruitment process are the assessment centres. So we're going to cover this in a bit more detail, but essentially it's made up of two components, being the group work, where they want to assess essentially how you operate in a team to sort of get tasks done, and then also the individual interviews. So you'll go and sort of have a one-on-one sort of more traditional style interview and go through like a whole bunch of questions and stuff. So we'll have a look at this in a bit more detail. So yeah, we'll sort of run through now how to sort of nail each step. So it will differ, across the board with sort of how to do what they think is best practice and stuff. So don't take this as gospel. Like obviously, use it to your advantage, but then sort of go out. A lot of employers will have information on what they think is best practice as well. So do a bit of research and make sure that you sort of have a wide knowledge base of this, so that you can kind of pick and choose what you think is going to be best. Cool. All right. So the cover letter. So we want to keep it brief but informative. So a general rule of thumb is basically to sort of keep it between a half page and a full page, but don't go more than that. You don't want, like, this isn't going to be used to fully assess you, so that they're not going to read this and have all of the information. It's to draw them in and see whether it could be a fit, to draw them into reading your CV. So keep it concise, like that. If it's too long, then they're not going to get through all of it, because I've got to read hundreds of these. And then the second point is to sort of make sure it's unique for every application. Recruiters can just spot a templated cover letter a mile away, and if they detect that, then they're probably going to push past it and go into a rejection pile. So make sure that it is tailored for whoever you're applying for, and sort of you can bring up stuff that's relevant to them in it. Leading on from that is don't get the company name wrong. It seems like a very obvious point, but it's kind of tied into when people are using templates, and then they leave the last person's or the last company they've applied for in there. And obviously that's just not a good look. So
I've seen that a few times actually. Yeah, it's you sort of just cringe a little bit when you've seen some.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because it's just like, you can understand from the application side, if you are sort of putting in a number of applications, it does require more effort. But the thing is that the effort that you've put in is going to be looked at fondly. So it's definitely worth doing. Just take the time. It doesn't take too much more work to do sort of individualized cover letters. And, if we're talking about half a page to a page, it's not huge. So, and there will be parts of it that you can copy and paste, but like just when you're doing the whole blocks of it, it's just not a good look. Yeah. And then, so I guess on that as well is just try and look for opportunities to try and sort of personalize it and talk to more specific parts of the business or what you're applying for. So whether it be sort of current events with the business, read the AFR, see what's going on with them, team structure, if you know a bit about how they sort of function, past projects, particularly with like sort of mining or engineering and stuff. There'll be projects that you can be like, oh, this really caught my attention. I was really interested in this. But just sort of any general knowledge of the company and why you want to work there is really beneficial. we've gotten here to sort of avoid adding formal, like super formal, outdated language. Like, you know, I wish to express my sincerest interest in acquiring a position. You know what I mean? So don't sort of go overly verbose with trying to sort of throw every word in there. What we sort of suggest is to keep it more like if you were to run into like a senior leader in the elevator at work. So it would be, you know, a comfortable conversation, but it would still be professional. So we sort of suggest go back and sort of reading through it, and then if it sounds normal to sort of read back to yourself, then chances are it's fine. But if it is like a bit sort of static when you read through, then consider sort of changing around a bit to make it a bit more casual. Maybe not casual, but like but less sort of not overly formal, I guess. Then yeah, correct formatting and structure, self-explanatory, but just make sure you do it and get it right. You know, keep all the font the right size. You know, a couple of like two to four paragraphs, depending on sort of how long it is. Just nicely laid out so it's easy to read for them. And then the important information, keep clear. So obviously, if someone likes you, you wanted them to know who you are. So make sure your name's obvious, your degree and location and stuff is all there for them, and then contact numbers so they can get in touch with you.
It's probably a good point to say that, you know, one of your first tips was saying half to one pager, and I think sometimes we try to over explain or you know, try and fit the world into one page, and it's definitely hard. But I think you have to be ruthless in the fact that it's just an invite page, isn't it? For them to want to know more about you versus have all the answers to what they're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like you can appreciate it though, because it's like if you know, it's the one shot that you've got to try to get to the next round. So it's like you want to have your best foot forward and do your best, but you know, by sending them through 3 pages and have this awesome letter, it's not going to be as effective. So it's actually better to try and sort of keep it as short as possible and concise and have all the information that you need. And then you'll be able to sort of draw out that, like that's the whole point of the interview process, right? Or the recruiting process, to draw all the information out, find out who you are in detail along those lines. So yeah, definitely sort of try and keep it shorter if you can.
Yeah, great.
Cool. All right. So yeah, so nailing the CV. So I mean, look, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because there's so much stuff out there online already about this. There is some stuff on our website as well. I've got to jump on and check that out. But you know, just some straightforward stuff. So it's obviously all your personal details, phone number, address, email and stuff. Education, where you've studied, completion dates, grades and qualifications, career history, you know, company name, job, start, finish dates, achievements and stuff like that. With this one, you know, if you don't necessarily have heaps of work experience, don't worry too much. Just talk to what you can. And then it's the same. This is where I guess extracurricular activities are really beneficial as well. If you've got some stuff that you can talk to, like any association you work with, any volunteering you're doing, can work really well to sort of talk to in job interviews, as well as to sort of flesh out your CV. And then when you're ordering it, it's just have the most recent stuff first. But yeah, again, jump online. There's heaps of stuff about nailing your CV online. So yeah, you should be able to sort of figure that one out. Cool. Yeah, I think this is all pretty much. Yeah. So I mean, look. Yeah. So again, sort of. Yeah, concise information if you want to do a career objective. So like that would normally be sort of just a quick outline of what you want to sort of focus on and where you want to achieve over the sort of next 5 to 10 years.
What is your opinion on those statements, Rogan? I mean,
I mean, look. So for the career objective, that's cool. I think, you know, if you want to do that, put yours on. With the photo stuff, you know, I think that like we generally will say that because people don't, it's you get different responses from employers, right? So like when I'm chatting to all my different employers that I work with, they'll have different ideas on it. But by not having a photo, I think it's just safer to not disadvantage you. You know, like if there's any unconscious bias or anything like that, then that won't affect it. So, you know, but I mean, look. Again, if you're in a position where you think, okay, this is, you know, I feel more comfortable with having a photo or whatever, that's fine. So there's no like hard and fast rules, you know, like if you've got the perfect CV and you've got like a photo on, they're not going to be like, no. So But yeah, so, and then like the rest of the stuff, I mean, should be pretty straightforward as well. Spell check it, get someone to read it back. I mean, particularly with CVs, you look at them for so long and you just get so immune to what's on there, and then you miss all the obvious mistakes. So once you think you're finished with it, go give it to some fresh eyes and get them to have a look at it. And then they can come back to you with anything that doesn't look right. Yeah, cool. Then attach your transcript, and then social media as well. We should probably touch on that as well. Just make sure that what you're reflecting on your CV and what's on LinkedIn, if someone types you on Google, is your Facebook, is your Instagram and stuff, all reflecting the same story that's being told. So like, I mean, it's a pretty self-explanatory. So if there's anything that, you know, you wouldn't want your future employer to see online, then maybe have a look at that. Cool.
Just quickly before the CV stuff is, I mean, a lot of the questions we've been getting over these sessions is there an ultimate number of pages
for the CV?
Yeah, should we be worried about it, or is it something we should be, you know, like take notice of?
So I mean, like, I think this is where structure comes into it. So like if you're doing a CV and it's one paragraph that goes for 10 pages, then absolutely not. You know, it's just going to be one block of text and I'm like, what is this? But if you've got enough information to fill out a few pages and it's all relevant, then use it. But like, you don't, you know, if you've got all this information about this business that you've started on the side, but you know, someone told you to only write 2 pages and you can't fit a third, don't leave it out because that's useful, right? So I guess my sort of take on that is that when you structure it, just make sure that you've got a clear layout. So again, there's a lot of stuff online and sort of how to structure it, but you can kind of split it out. So, you know, with bullet points and stuff like that. So you don't necessarily need to have these long-winded pieces of information. Just see how concise you can get it. But yeah, don't leave out information if you think it's important. But, you know, the flip side of that is don't try and just fill out 5 pages for the sake of filling out 5 pages. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Cool. So then, phone interview stuff. So basically, yeah. So once you've filled out once you've done the cover letter, once you've done the CV and handed it in and done the application, generally you'll get a call from the grad recruiter being like, hey, just wanted to chat through the application, and then sort of see whether you're the right fit, and then sort of gauge whether you'll be suited to the role and suited to the company based on your experience. So this is the first interaction that you have with the grad recruiter. So again, make sure you put in your best foot forward. Make sure that if you've got a set time that you're ready to go and they call you through and you're straight on. If you're prepared, you know, there'll be certain stuff like that you can kind of prepare for in terms of like know what the company is doing, like jump on, read the news, see what current events are happening with the company. And again, yeah, and this is going to be the first time that they sort of communicate with you. So make sure that you're sort of upbeat and positive. Because I mean, they're going to be calling through hundreds of students. So it's pretty, it's worth making sure that you're memorable by being, you know, nice on the phone. I think it's beneficial if you, and again, if you're not comfortable on the phone, like start sort of chatting to people, just like stop texting and start chatting to people and get more comfortable with phone conversations. Because I mean, when I first went into the workforce, I wasn't really good on the phone, and I worked on a call center for a bit, and that, you know, you learn pretty quickly how to speak to people, but it wasn't something that I was overly comfortable with doing, particularly when you're getting called about a job. You get a bit more sort of like shy or reserved. So, you know, even if it's like the day before, give your friends a call and just get used to being like chatting again, and then so that when you call through, you're a bit more comfortable. Cool. Yeah. So this is sort of similar sort of stuff. So there's going to be questions that you can prepare for. So you'll be surprised the amount of people they'll call up and sort of ask, you know, why do you want to work at the company? And the students don't have a strong answer to that. That is something that I can guarantee you that every employer is going to want to ask you is why you want to work there. So you have the opportunity to have a perfect answer to that. And if you don't, then it's kind of like, well, why you should, because it's going to be asked. And it's similar with the questions that are here. So, you know, some some behavioral stuff, like showing leadership qualities. A lot of the grad programs are focused on leadership and trying to find future leaders. So keep that as a core theme. When you face a difficult situation, how to overcome it. Google on how to answer questions with a STAR response. That's a good tip on how to structure your responses. But then being able to talk to your career aspirations, what you want from the role, and then why you want to work at the company again. But yeah, just there'll be a few stuff, a few questions that, especially if you run through, like if you Google sort of top interview questions, there'll be some that just come up all the time. And those ones that are consistent across all the different ones, make sure you have strong answers for, because they will come up for you. Cool. So then a couple of last tips. So we've had sometimes where if you've got a really casual voicemail message, make sure that if you have a recruiter calling through, you're not going to get taken marks off for this really, but it's good to kind of make sure you've got everything covered. Make sure your voicemail is a strong professional message when the recruiter calls through if you missed the call. Be in a suitable environment. And if they call you and you're like walking home on the road and it's really noisy, it's fine to say, hey, do you just mind giving me a couple minutes and I'll give you a call back, rather than trying to answer everything on the phone. Because you obviously want to do your best, but I'll be ready for them straight away. But if it is going to disrupt you, it's better off just being like, look, give me 1 minute, I'll give you a call back when I'm inside. And then communication style. It's just they're calling through hundreds of students, so just have a nice, comfortable chat with them, because it's going to leave more of an impact on them if you sort of have a bit of a conversation with them as well. And then always have questions. Again, it's a similar thing where you're going to be able to be prepared. This is going to show that you have, one, an interest, and two, that you've thought about this and had a bit of preparation. So if you have some good questions at the end, it can also spark a bit of conversation. So, if I was to call Davida and be like, okay, hit you with, 20 interview questions, and then he's got sort of structured answers to that, or, we run through that and then we're like, okay, cool, see ya. And that's it. Versus if we run through this question and Davida was like, what is it that you like about the company? And then we can get into a bit of a conversation. And then I get off the phone, I was like, oh, that was a really nice, engaged student, and that's going to work really in your favor.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. I mean, when I'm running some interviews, it's nice to have people ask you questions, because otherwise it almost becomes too rigid.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
you want to almost get to know the person, or you asking questions also shows that you've shown interest.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. And it's like, from my experience, it really sort of gets both people more comfortable. So you can kind of get a better idea of who they are from both the employer side and from the student side.
Absolutely.
Cool. And then, so this moves into the sort of final stages of the assessment centers. So basically there's the two key elements here, as we talked about before, with the group stuff and the one-on-one interviews. So obviously, with the grad programs, you'll be moving into a team. So you'll be working with staff and other grads and other stakeholders. So it's important for them to assess how you're going to work in that environment. So you'll have to do sort of group activities and stuff. And it's important to remember that the grads that you're doing it with on your team are not your competition. So don't try and sort of step on each other. Work with each other and try and sort of get to the end goal together, because that's what the assessors are looking for, as people who can work well in a group environment, essentially. Cool. So there's a few sort of things that they'll look at in terms of assessment. So there'll be case studies that come up. So when grads are born into the business, the expectation is they're going to transition into sort of helping the company solve real world issues. So often you'll get given a case study to see how you might sort of fare in future. It'll be based on real world events normally. So it could be something as simple as here we've got was it a good idea for Apple to remove the headphone jack? But it might go through to government mandated change and how to best sort of how that's going to affect a large business and how to react to that. So it's worth staying up again sort of with current affairs, read the paper, or Google the news of what business you're going to, because it can give you a bit of a leg up sometimes. And then we've got the group exercises. So this is kind of what we touched on before. But here, it'll be about sort of identifying those team roles, so it's, again, leadership and stuff. So, but don't, again, this is where it sort of comes, and don't sort of step on each other, work together. Often this is going to be in like a competitive setting as well. So we just sort of see how you work under high pressure situations in a team. And often it will be against other groups. But for this one, again, it's not necessarily about winning. It's just, there's going to be assessed on how you guys interact and what processes you take to sort of get to that end goal. And then the last part of that is with the assessment centers, there will often be social parts of that. So whether it be like a lunch or like a morning tea, where other students will be around, but also the hiring managers or the grad recruiters. So it's a great chance to sort of get in front of them, have a bit of a chat. If there's any questions you have, you can fire them off in a not such a formal setting, and also just get on their radar. So don't be shy. Everyone's there, then like because you want to get a job, and then you'll not only will it be worth chatting to the people who are hiring, but getting an idea of what other people are doing, and a feel from that. So that's cool. Yeah. So who's assessing it is going to be generally the grad recruiters and the hiring managers. So the grad recruiters, depending on the company, but for the most part, it'll be a specific role where they are looking after specifically graduate students and putting them through the full process through to starting. So depending on the size of the company, this can be groups of a couple of hundred students, or it could be like sort of 10 to 15. So it will range. And then the other people who will be assessing will be the business leaders and hiring managers. So basically the parts of the business that you'll be moving into, basically to see whether they can get the most value from, and who's going to have the most sort of positive impact on the business for them. Cool. And then, so we've broken this out. And so, look, you're not necessarily going to have, there's got 4 sort of types of interview here. The reality is that you're not going to have like one of these types of interview. They're all going to have different parts, but basically with the competency stuff is going to be sort of looking at getting you to sort of demonstrate your skills and competencies that the employers are looking for through situational examples. So like situational questions. So it'll be like, think of a time where X happened, and then you can go give an answer of where you displayed the characteristic that they're looking for. With the partner interview, these are often with sort of senior members, and the purpose is basically to see your personality and whether you'd be a fit for the company that you're joining. This kind of interview is more of a form of conversation with questions sort of around sort of why you want to join and what you want to achieve, and what you'd bring to the plate. With the technical stuff, this will be aimed more at students sort of doing IT, data analytics and stuff like that, where more, you might get sort of brain teaser stuff or more numerical reasoning questions. So so this will be more typical across sort of like STEM subjects like IT, engineering, science. And then the panel interview, this will be, rather than having a one-on-one interview, you might have sort of 3 to 5 people in front of you, which isn't anything to be scared of either. They're all sort of there for the same reason, to find out about you. So we'll see this more across sort of organizations like educational institutions or non-for-profit and government. But just use it to sort of bounce off, each question that comes through, because you'll be able to chat to everyone on the panel. So try and engage everyone. Cool. And so that's pretty much it in terms of the stuff we're covering today. We'll jump to questions in a second, but there will also be stuff on our website. The one thing that I thought I'd add in here, just because in terms of timing, there's a lot of them on the website at the moment where we have visual internships, particularly with everyone being in lockdown. If you're looking for activities to do, there's a lot of employers now where they'll be offering virtual internships, where essentially they are basically giving you an insight to what it would be like to work as a graduate at the company. So a lot of them are really tailored as well. So jump on and have a look, because this is going to give you a huge advantage to talk to in interviews, particularly to Vita. I know that we were sort of chatting before that often the questions will come up around, you know, what can I do and how can I upskill myself without experience? This is the perfect opportunity, because they'll be for specific companies as well. And what better way to say, you know, like I haven't had, you know, any work experience, but I've done your virtual internship, and I found this great, and they'll give you something to talk to in the interviews as well, and it will also look great on your CV. So have a look at that. That was one sort of additional tip. And then so the jobs guide on our website will have a lot of the stuff that we've covered today. So if you jump on that, then you should be able to sort of catch everything that we covered. So Tavita, if we've got questions coming through, we might fire off some now, and then if there's anything we can't get to, we can do an email out.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Rogan. Such a comprehensive. I mean, there's always a lot you can go through for this sort of topic. But I've put the link in the chat there for everyone to sort of walk away with after the session, just to sort of dive into it. We do have a few questions here, and we've got one of the higher voted ones here was earlier on. Does GradConnection filters employers to hire international students as for many employers, citizenship or PR is essential?
So we don't filter people in terms of, we can't filter in terms of anything, in terms of like who gets to see what jobs. But what we do is, if you set up an account with us, we'll send you out relevant opportunities. So for international students, for example, you will put your work rights in, but then we'll only send you jobs that you can actually apply for, because there will be, like, you're right, there is a lot of stuff out there where, you know, your PR is essential, or, you know, you need sort of Australian citizenship, but there's also a lot of opportunities that can hire international students as well, like New South Wales Gov, for example. I mean, obviously being in Victoria is probably not the greatest example, but there's certainly opportunity on there. So if you make an account with us, put your work rights in, and we'll send you out only relevant stuff, and then you don't have to sort of trawl through all of the different opportunities to try and find them.
Yeah, thanks, Ray. That's really helpful. Another one here. Look, this is a bit of a curveball. If you've got a bit of an unusual ethnic name, is it worth anglicizing to avoid any unconscious bias?
It depends on whether, so with unconscious bias, it's tricky because it depends on whether I don't have any sort of stats off the top of my head that I can sort of rattle off. That's one that I would like to sort of come back to, because off the top of my head, I'm not too sure. But I'm sure there's some stuff out there, so we can go back and have a look for sure.
Well, it's interesting for me. I think if there are organisations that you feel like maybe it's not the right organisation that you should be aligning yourself with.
Exactly, and I mean, for the most part, like for the initial processes as well, a lot of it's kind of automated, so there's not going. It's literally built to avoid any unconscious bias. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. If that's the kind of approach, then it's probably not the right business for anyone.
Because I know a lot of organisations now are making a stance on their diversity sort of recruitment processes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I think that's probably something to look at too, if it is an issue. But look, it's unfortunately, unconscious bias is one of those things you can't really see. So
exactly.
Okay, great. So we're going to go to the next one here. How do you contact people via LinkedIn? Like starting with asking questions or to introduce myself. I think this is one of those, so networking without actually knowing the person.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tricky one. So I've really spoken to my clients about sort of being reached out to on LinkedIn. I think particularly with the grad stuff, if there's a formal process, that it's best off just to stick with that. Like, while it might be, you know, might be showing interest and sort of trying to sort of show that you're really engaged. If they're getting hit with hundreds of messages from students, it would actually be more like they would prefer you to go through the process, because that's kind of why it's built out that way. I'd sort of keep the direct messaging on LinkedIn until you have a bit more experience, because then the experience that you have on your LinkedIn, you'll be able to sort of talk to as well. So rather than, particularly as a student, your LinkedIn is not necessarily going to be that built out or that fleshed out. So I would stick to the more formal processes that are there, and then look at sort of the LinkedIn stuff a bit later on.
Fantastic, thank you. Another one here. Can you explain what you meant when you said your LinkedIn profile shouldn't just be the same as your CV?
I'm not sure whether I said that. I think if I did, I'm sorry. It should reflect the same as what you have on your CV. So you want it to be the same. So when you send through your CV, they can go to LinkedIn and it's going to have the same reflected. So maybe I misspoke. Sorry if I'm throwing anyone off.
No, essentially, just make sure that's a carbon copy. So there's no room for somebody to go, oh, that's weird. It doesn't look like the same stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so how important is it to have your address on your CV or cover letter? I don't.
Yeah, look. Oh, yes. But yeah, look. I think with the address, it's probably it's more to do with like if you're sort of. It depends on the role, really. I mean, like if I'm applying for something in rural New South Wales, for example, that isn't going to be realistic for me to sort of travel and stuff. But normally, like they'll talk to that further in the role. But it's probably not going to be overly important nowadays. But certainly your contact details is important. That's the main key. I think that because when people talk about contact details, generally address is included in that, but the main purpose is because people want to get in touch with you. So as long as they can chat to you and find out where you are, then that's going to be what's key.
Fantastic. Another one here. My previous work experience and the jobs I look for now are different domains. Like I worked in IT before, but now I'm majoring in mechanical engineering. How do I make it helpful for me?
So let me just read that one back. So my previous work experience and jobs I look for now are different. So
now they were in IT and now majoring in mechanical engineering.
Yeah.
How do they make it work for them?
Well, I mean, if you're looking for roles in mechanical engineering, I'm assuming they're sort of, do they have a mechanical engineering degree as well, or are they working? What kind of roles they're applying for? Because I mean, with IT particularly, you actually have a lot of flexibility of wherever you want to work. I mean, like a lot of our clients now are doing a specific push to try and attract IT students. So I think that, if I was in that position, I'd be looking at how I can use my previous skills as IT, for an example, but then go into, maybe an engineering firm that has a lot of mechanical engineering roles, and then you might be able to leverage it that way as well. If you can't necessarily get in straight off the bat. But again, like there's a lot of people who are trying to attract different disciplines to what they're perceived as. Like CBA, they did a huge push. They did this huge campaign called an unlikely match, because obviously they never had any problem getting business and commerce students or banking and finance, because everyone knew they're a bank and they all wanted to work there. But it was for all the IT subjects, for all engineering, people would go to companies that were aligned with that. So people like, if they want to work if they're in IT, they want to go work at Google, they want to work at Facebook. But actually CBAs, I'm not sure if this is still true, but it was certainly for a while, but CBA is the largest IT employer or tech employer in Australia. So it's kind of like, with the IT stuff, you should be in a pretty solid position.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there's a lot of these large corporations where, although it might be a law firm, they still need business services people. They need, back-end support. So I guess that's where I think you've got to be a little bit more, open to sort of looking at an organization that you want to work to, and that they support any of the skills that you have.
Yeah, exactly right.
Okay, brilliant. So we've got on here, top of the list. So what information should we include in our LinkedIn summary, especially if we want to keep our options open for different types of jobs?
What information should we include in our LinkedIn summary? Well, I mean, it depends on kind of what you're studying and what kind of jobs you want to be looking at. By going too broad, then you may not necessarily be able to sort of show off your skills, depending on what you've done. So I would sort of focus on your experience and what you've studied in terms of your summary, because it's not necessarily going to stop you from applying for other things. If you've got a degree and you want to sort of move into other stuff, you're still going to have the opportunity to. And like the thing is that you're going to have to go through the interview process anyway, so it's not like you can hide anything. So especially just try and sort of put yourself out there. But you don't with LinkedIn stuff, you don't necessarily need to go into too much detail either, because like similar to the cover letter, it's just supposed to be like a bit of a brief piece of information about you. And then if you do want to sort of go and look at roles, then all of that will be uncovered through the interview process. Fantastic.
All right. Rogan, do you have a tip to avoid sound presumptuous and instead of sound approachable in the cover letters in the CV?
So I'm assuming instead of being like when I'm in the role, like kind of thing. Is that what they want?
I'd say that's what it's about. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a tricky one. I think that's probably got to be one of the ones where once you've written it, give it to someone else to read, and then get them to have a look at it and see what they think. I don't have any sort of key tips on what words to use or anything like that, unfortunately. But I think, look, it is one of those things where, you know, you want to sort of be putting your best self forward. So you do want to sort of sound confident. But yeah, maybe just sort of get a few people to read it to make sure it doesn't come across arrogant or anything like that, or too presumptuous. But yeah, sorry, I can't be more help with that one.
No, I think it's a great answer. I think getting others to read it, because I think they can be honest with you in terms of feedback as well. All right, so here we are. So with the pandemic, are the number of internships and graduate positions declined substantially? If yes, what can students do to accommodate such situations?
Yeah, so interestingly, we actually haven't seen a huge decline. So in terms of stats, we've done like a number of surveys throughout COVID. So in terms of people who actually pulled their grad programs, there was only 3% of our clients who did, or of grad employers who did. There was a number who reduced their numbers, but it wasn't super substantial. And then there was others who would normally hire at the start of the year, but then around the peak of the pandemic have pushed out to this later half of the year. So it hasn't been like as substantial as you might think. But in terms of what you can do regardless, I would definitely recommend still upskilling. You know, if you've got time on your hands, particularly while we're in lockdown, get on and do some, and the virtual internship stuff is perfect for jumping on and then like learning a bit about companies and upskilling yourself. And that gives you something to talk to in interviews like we were talking about before. But then other stuff as well that you can do would be maybe look at doing a side hustle or setting up a website. Because again, if you don't have heaps of work experience, then it gives you some more stuff to talk to about, and especially if you're passionate about it, that'll come across well in interviews for you.
Great, thank you. Another one here. As an international student on a student visa that allows only 40 hours per fortnight work for our grad year, we will get post-study work visas that allow us to work full time. When applying, I will have only a student visa. So what right do I have to put in?
Oh, right. Okay.
So I guess, so at the moment as a student, it's 20 hours a week or 40 a fortnight is the current conditions on a student visa.
Oh, right.
And as they graduate or when they're not studying, the stipulation is that they can work unlimited hours essentially.
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess, the question is based around, while they're applying and they're only on a student visa, should they be talking about that, or, what?
I might come back to that one. That's probably, I don't want to sort of speak and give the wrong answer here. So if we jot that one down.
I can email this to you at the end.
Perfect. Yeah.
So we'll definitely get back to that one. Thanks for that question. Another one here. What types of questions should we ask in an interview? I've been told that we shouldn't ask about information that we readily found on a website. Should we ask a question that will come up naturally throughout an interview, or wait until the end?
That's a tricky one because it really sort of depends on the situation. Like, I think that sort of takes a bit of reading the room a bit and sort of seeing what the approach is. If they're sort of going more conversational for you, for sure, ask them up. But there always will be a time at the end. So if it doesn't come across, like if it's not naturally turning into a conversation, don't force it. Just wait till the end. Would be my advice, because there will always be a section at the end where you can ask questions. In terms of what to ask, I mean, look, if there is information on the website that can be easily found, then hopefully you're kind of across that, and then you can ask a question a step further than that. So, but then also stuff like, I mean, if there's stuff that comes out throughout the interview that you can kind of bring up and talk to as well, would be really great. You know, if they've sort of been speaking about a certain situation or a certain project, you might be able to link back and sort of ask a bit more detail about that. Or, you know, it could be asking about their personal experience there, what they've liked about the company, why they're still there. You know, if you know the person who's hiring you, they're presumably has been there, you know, for an extended period of time. You know, why are they still there? What do you like about it? What tips do you have? Or like, you know, there's plenty of stuff that you can ask that wouldn't be like, when was the company founded? You know, so yeah, but get online. There's lots of stuff to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. Just I think one of the great questions is, you know, what type of organization is it to work in, or, you know, the culture questions are always nice because it's not like a statement; it's someone's actual feeling behind the company.
Yeah, exactly right.
Another one here. Do employers ever try to contact applicants by phone without formally arranging a time beforehand? In brackets, if we don't normally answer calls from unknown numbers, would that be an issue if we miss a call from an employer?
Look, I mean, if I don't think people are going to necessarily catch you off guard. If they'll say, for the most part, they'll set a time with you. If they don't, they might be like, if they say they're going to get in touch with you on a certain time, then you can kind of look out for it. The other thing is as well is that normally people will leave a message for you. So again, make sure that your answer phone is set up correctly. And then, you know, if you don't normally answer phone calls from unknown numbers and you see a message pop up, you can check it and then quickly call them back. So, but look, it's not as though they're going to like go through your profile and then just kind of call you and try and catch you off guard. They will also let you know ahead of time.
Okay, fantastic. We're almost running out of time here, so I'm going to try and squeeze a couple more. What's the best way to know what type of interview you'll have, group, panel, partner, etc.? Do employees tell us? Do we need to ask them, or do we just need to be ready for any types of scenario?
I mean, look, both. Like you know, normally they'll sort of tell you and they'll talk you through the process, but I would always sort of suggest asking about the process. Because then you can kind of figure out anything that you might have been missed online, get a bit more detail, and sometimes they'll sort of say they might give you hints on what to look out for as well. So definitely ask them and just about, you know, what can I expect sort of throughout the recruitment process? What does the interview process look like? What can I do to best prepare? You know, they're all great questions that you can ask, and they'll be more than open to sort of chatting you through that.
Fantastic. Another one here. So I'm currently in my last semester of post-graduation in civil engineering. During last summer break, I chose to do an internship with one of the reputable infrastructure companies in Melbourne. I really like the working ethics over there and would love to work for them. Now that I'm about to complete my studies, should I email the HR department about my interest? If yes, how?
That one, look, I'm not 100% sure on how to answer that, to be quite honest. Depending, I would sort of suggest rather than emailing the HR department, whoever it was that you worked alongside with, maybe get in touch with them and seeing if there was anything that you can do or that the company had offered to do it through, because there'll be some sort of process there. So it's quite hard to talk to, but yeah, I wouldn't necessarily go straight to the HR department. Maybe sort of tread lightly around that first off, just to make sure that you're not sort of trying to jump the gun or anything like that. Just to make sure you're coming across respectful, I guess.
Great. Okay, one more here. If I don't have all professional experience to answer all the key selection criteria, what should I add into it, or just skip that question?
So in terms of like work experience?
Yeah, I think so. Like, so if you're addressing selection criteria on a job application, if I literally can't answer it, should I just skip it?
I would say try and fill it out with anything that might be relevant, even if it's not necessarily professional experience. Like if there's anything that you've done that's kind of tied into that, that you might be able to link in. But yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a tricky one.
Yeah, I think it's probably better looked at if they've written an answer versus not an answer at all, unfortunately, in situations.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I mean, when I'm looking at if someone's literally just skipped over one or not, I was like, oh, why you could have written something.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I'm actually going to call it now. We've only had a few more questions to go. I don't know what your timing's like, Rogan. Do you have an extra couple of
Yeah,
minutes?
I'm all right to run
Yeah,
through
is that right?
5-10
Okay, well,
minutes. Yeah, that's
thanks,
cool.
Rogan. Look, so I'm trying to get through these last three here. So, as an international student, is there a condition about only Australian citizens, or should I apply for that position, or should I email and ask for similar opportunities from that company?
So again with this one, I mean, if they're unable to, if they do have certain working conditions, often there'll be some sort of business requirement. So it's not something that they can just be like, oh yeah, cool, we'll allow X, Y, Z to happen just specifically. So what I suggest is jumping on, setting up an account with us, and we'll send you through relevant stuff, and then you can kind of apply for stuff from there.
Great, thank you. And quickly going through this, as I plan to work interstate, is it important for me to explain the reasons why I would like to move interstate on the cover letter?
I think that, it's, as long as it's relevant, like, I mean, it's because it may just be that the job's perfectly suited, and that's exactly the opportunity you've been looking for. So of course, then that would be suitable. If it's like, my girlfriend has just worked to just move there now, I'm trying to find a role there. Probably not as compelling.
Yeah.
So it just sort of depends, I think. But like, I would sort of just speak to why you want the opportunity, and that probably should tie in with the interstate stuff anyway.
Great, thank you. And a last one here. Would it be okay to provide a link to my personal website that serves the same purpose as the CV, but may be able to be more comprehensive instead of providing a comprehensive CV?
Look, I think that is going to be, I can't necessarily make a blanket statement on that. But if you think that that's the best way to sort of present yourself, maybe, particularly if it's like for a development, IT role, and you've done this awesome website, then be very relevant. So it really sort of depends. But if you think that that's going to give you an advantage, then absolutely.
Fantastic. Look, Rogan, thank you so much for being with us this evening and taking us through what is Grad Connection and some of the tips of the process of getting that job through as a graduate, and going through the questions there. We do have one question which I'll get to you at the end of the session, and
Awesome.
we'll address that, and we'll put that as part of the mail out afterwards. This session is being recorded, so it will be put up on our website in the next day or so. So all the resources that Rogan referred to there, you'll be able to get back onto that recording and get to it there. And their website is there in the chat. So au.gradconnection.com, and it's /jobs-guide if you wanted to get through a lot of the resource. But we've also put that up with the recording. So as mentioned before, GSA has dedicated Tuesdays to employability and transition to work sessions, 6 to 7 p.m. Wednesdays, we're looking at academic support at 4 till 5. And on Thursdays, we're looking at building healthy and engaged communities in the lunch break, so 12:30 to 1:30. So please look out for all our events on Facebook and through our website. Any other comments you'd like to make before we close this out completely, Rogan?
No, that's awesome. I appreciate you for having me.
Yeah, no, it's been a wealth of information, especially at this time when a lot of our postgraduate students are looking for any tips and sort of leg ups or assistance to get them on the top of that list for the graduates. So again, everyone, thank you so much for tonight. We'll see you again. Look out for all our information on our website or Facebook. 1-800-GSA-HELP is to call us, or info@gsa.unimelb.edu.au for emails.